Welcome, welcome, welcome to Interesting Enough. He is Trey. I am Nolan. Thank you guys so much for joining us once again. If this is your first time listening to the podcast. Thank you. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. NFL is back. Couple of days out from the first game. Trey, man, what's going on? How are you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great, man. This is one of the best times of the year. College football and the NFL. You cannot complain if you're a sports fan.
Listen, we got through it. We got through the dog days of the summer. Olympics saved us, Trey. Olympics
They
saved us.
did,
I
they
ain't gonna
did.
lie. It saved us for content. It saved us for actual things to watch. We got basketball. We got Curry, LeBron, Noah Lyles. Noah Lyles gave us about a week of content just running his mouth. So we got a lot. We got a lot of stuff. We didn't even cover that much of the NFL in the offseason because of the Olympics like we would normally do. So we got a lot to get into, things that we've had a lot of thoughts about how the season's going to go. But Trey and I win our league. We're in our fantasy football league. We had our draft yesterday. Trey, man, I know everybody feels good about their team, but like, you tell me why you feel good about your team as opposed to anybody else. Because you had a pretty good draft. We was in the same draft. You was a pick right before me. Stole a couple of my picks, but that's neither here nor there. But how you feeling about the squad?
Man, I'm feeling pretty good about the squad. I believe, the two best receivers for fantasy football, Jamar Chase and Debo Samuel. I guess you can make an argument for Justin Jefferson, but like, hey man, you got to believe in Sam Darnold. So like, I feel like I did great in this fantasy football league. I don't have the greatest running back room, but that's okay. We can make trades. I got Najee Harris and Tony Pollard, but we can make that work. We're gonna make something shape.
I feel like with fantasy, you're not gonna have strengths everywhere. So I kind of went with your strategy too. Like, you got to have strength somewhere. So like I was the running back strength guy. I got three starting backs. Got Henry, Brees Hall, like Kenneth Walker the third. So I gotta have some strengths. Like you said, you and I may be potential trade partners. I need receivers. You need a running back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta have the strengths where you can kind of like maneuver around and move. We had somebody in our draft two quarterbacks. Now he's got a quarter. Now he's got Patrick Mahomes on the bench. So somebody's gonna make a call. I'm gonna make a call and see if I can get somebody. I know he needs a running back because it ain't no point in Patrick Mahomes. He's gonna be playing Thursday. And think about this: Patrick Mahomes gonna be playing Thursday, and he's gonna be on the bench. Just think about that. Like,
Ridiculous.
it's crazy. It's really crazy. So fantasy gets you. My advice to anybody, most people have has already drafted by this point, but we talk about it all the time. We're not fantasy experts, but you don't even got to stress fantasy too much. You know how many people, Trey, won their fantasy football leagues by doing it just on auto pick? Just on auto pick. Like, sometimes we be in the draft and we're like overreacting and we're like, oh, I don't want to pick this guy. I don't want to pick this guy. This guy's old. This guy's not that exciting. Just go with sometimes just going with the guy that's chalk. That's like the Mike Evans, the Devontae Adams, those guys that, like, they're not the sexy picks. Everybody wants to do Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. and all that stuff. But like, you know what Mike Evans does every year? Get 1,000 yards. Like, you know what I mean? It might not look pretty, but he's gonna produce you. It's gonna be nice when he has 13, 14 points in your fantasy league every week. So that's my advice to people. What give Trey, give some fantasy advice to some people, maybe something that burned you in the past, something that you wish you would have done. That, like, hey, if you're playing fantasy for the first time, this is you just talking to somebody that's never played fantasy. Like, just shoot them something that they could just use and keep in the back of their mind.
I'm telling you, I've been playing fantasy for years, probably close to a decade. If they're hurt at the beginning of the season, they're going to be hurt in the middle and the end of the season. So if you
Yeah.
already see that questionable mark on them, you need to be careful. Like, save them for the last, like the one of the last few picks you make, because you will not be enjoying fantasy that year if you pick them in your first or second round. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I don't think anything's worse than your first or second round pick, like, just either not performing well or getting hurt. Like, that just hurts your soul. Like, because you invested a lot in that person, like McCaffrey, Bijan, whoever it is. Like, now, some of your late round picks, you kind of just taking some flyers and seeing what happens. But I think with fantasy, it always makes it interesting because what's going to happen is, Trey, there's going to be somebody on your team that you drafted in the seventh, eighth, ninth round, and they probably going to be one of your best performing players all year. But you just didn't know at the time. You just kind of picked them up on your team as like a late round stash, and that's always how it goes. And then there's going to be some of that we also drafted that was a high pick that's probably not going to perform as well too. The problem is with fantasy, and I guess that's the most exciting thing about it. It's just the idea of not knowing, right? So that's the main thing. So, but I'm excited for the year. Hopefully I went to the championship game last year. I'm excited to go back there. But let's talk about the actual real game and not fantasy that's coming up. Ravens Chiefs Thursday, Trey. First of all, is this the matchup we wanted to see? Because like I thought about that. I don't know if I wanted to see Ravens Chiefs this early in the year. I kind of want to see them when like some stakes are on the line. But like, how do you feel about the matchup overall? And then how you feeling? Just who you think is going to come out in game one?
I'm kind of in agreement with you. It's kind of early on, and not even just stakes at the line, but it's just the fact that both teams are going to be a little bit rusty. There's always some kinks to work out when it's the first game of the season. So I feel like this is a game where like week 8, week 9, when everybody's really accustomed to the playbook and nobody's really injured, that would have been a great time for this. But we do get superstars, and that's what the NFL wants to promote. We do get
Yep.
Lamar versus Patrick Mahomes, Mark Andrews versus Travis Kelce. All the Swifties, they're all in love right now because we're getting Travis Kelce right there on
Yep.
Thursday. So I mean, all in all, like it still should be a really good game. I'm really curious to see how the Ravens respond. Obviously, the Chiefs, they've been the most dominant team in the NFL the last 5 years, and they knocked out the Ravens in the AFC Championship last year after Lamar had a kind of underwhelming performance. So I'm kind of interested to see how he responds and how the addition of Derrick Henry, how that kind of affects the Ravens playbook, if that really helps them or if it takes some time to kind of get accustomed to it. And then as far as the Patrick Mahomes angle goes, I really feel like he's the Michael Jordan of the NFL right now. Like, there's nothing he could do that could really impress me. There's nothing he could do that could kind of shake my confidence in him. I'm like, yeah, I kind of expect you to win, but if you don't, I'm not going to be worried. So like, the Chiefs really don't have anything to prove to me at this point.
That's the thing that I guess makes the game even less compelling because it feels like this game is a way bigger deal for the Ravens and a way bigger statement both ways. If the Ravens win this game in Arrowhead, I'm not saying we can erase the playoff game that just happened, but like that's the last impression of the last time we saw the Ravens play football, they lost to this team at home. Just think about that. So that's what we're thinking about. So if for them it's like a big hurdle, like it's almost like a mental hurdle that the Bills could never get over and beat the Chiefs, right? Like it's like that same thing. It's like if you beat them, it's like okay, we can actually beat them. We can actually beat Jordan. So when it comes time to do it again, we've actually done it before. It doesn't mean we're going to do it again, but we've actually accomplished it. We've been to the mountaintop once. The Chiefs, it feels like it doesn't really matter if they lose this game. There's not really that many stakes for them. We've seen the Chiefs lose plenty of regular season games and then turn it on in the playoffs. So that's why I said the matchup is kind of weird. This is what I think, Trey. You remember last year when they played Detroit in the first game, and Detroit beat them. And I feel like that was the coming out party for Detroit for people like that weren't really too aware of how good the Lions are or were going to be. I think the NFL should use the first game of the season to introduce new fans to like an exciting team, that we should be aware of. Like they're already going to get everybody to watch because the Chiefs are there and Mahomes and Taylor Swift and Kelsey, whoever. But like, what about the Texans, Trey? You know what I mean? Like CJ Stroud's an up and coming star. A lot of people, you and I know who they are, but like a lot of casual football fans may not even know CJ Stroud like that. How about putting him on a national stage, right? And like seeing him perform, against that type of team. Win, lose, or draw, we're now going to be more familiar with CJ Stroud. Does that make sense?
Oh, I definitely agree with that philosophy. Like, I understand why you would do that. But I mean, listen, the NFL, they're all about this sure thing. Like, they don't want to take
Yeah,
any unnecessary risk. Lamar and the Ravens are going to draw eyeballs, and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, of course, are going to draw all eyeballs. Like, they just want a sure thing.
that's
From a
fair.
rational standpoint, it makes sense why you would want to push one of your young superstars. But it's not even like the NBA where like Curry and LeBron are getting old. This isn't a situation where Lamar and Patrick Mahomes are getting old. They should be in the prime of their careers right now. So like, why not go with the sure thing? And we should still push them for another 5 to 10 years.
Well, they could have did Buffalo.
I feel like they know. I feel like the reason they didn't do Buffalo is because they don't know. Buffalo is not expected to be the same team next year or this
Ah,
year.
fair. That's fair. That's a good point. Yeah, that's fair. I would like. I just would have liked to see a different matchup because I just like we talked about. It's going to be really early, but I'm gonna be happy football's back anyways. Two great teams, two great quarterbacks. Who you got in the game? Like, that's the ultimate thing. Because like that. That's the tough part.
I think I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I do think they bounce back. I think the addition of Derrick Henry will be very pivotal to their season. I'm expecting them to come out with a little bit more juice, a little bit more fire. As I said, the Chiefs don't really have anything to prove, but the Ravens do internally. So I think they're going to get the win. But I just want to say, I want to put a caveat out there that this does not mean that I'm picking them to win in the playoffs or in any future matchups with the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm just talking about Thursday. That's it.
Just the game. Yeah, no, just the game for sure. I mean, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs, and the reason I am is because I don't think they want to lose two season opening games in a row when they're dropping a banner, and they did that last year, and it was kind of a buzzkill. And I think that's in the back of their mind, and I don't think they want to do that again. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs again, just in this game, like Trey said. We're gonna get to Super Bowl predictions a little bit later, but let's talk. Let's canvas a little bit around the league because there's a lot of new faces and new teams and or new players and new teams and stuff like that. Um, we know who the good teams are going to be. Like I think we can kind of figure out in the AFC it's just going to be some combination of the Chiefs and the Bills and the Bengals and the Ravens. NFC is a little bit more, a little bit I would say less dense in a way, but
No, it is. Say it.
okay, yeah, it is. It is. All right. I mean, but the only reason I don't want to say it because sometimes I feel like it's going to be surprising. Maybe a couple teams out of nowhere that's really surprising, but do you have anybody that's in your mind, maybe a team, maybe a player, like who are you looking out for this year? Because I usually like to pick a standout team every year. I think I got the Cardinals right a couple years ago. I think I forgot who I picked last year. I think I got them wrong. So it's always like iffy, but maybe somebody you're like buying some stock in or a team that we're not maybe talking about, but like you think can either make a real run or at least get to the playoffs or something like that.
So I do want I'm gonna say this team. I'm not gonna I have to first preface it by saying I'm not even sure if they make their playoffs, but I just like what they've done in the offseason. I think they're gonna be so much better because of it. And that's the Chicago Bears.
Ooh,
Obviously, they got one of the most I'm gonna go out on a limb and say one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league right now. He hasn't even
I
played a
think
real
that's pretty
game
fair.
yet.
I
Okay,
think that's
okay,
fair.
thank you. One of the most talented quarterbacks in the league, and then you add in Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore. That wide receiver room is stacked. Again, first year quarterback, one of your main weapons, Rome Odunze's rookie as well. I don't think that they really made the playoffs, if I'm going to be honest with you. But I think they're going to be a team that at the end of the season, everybody's saying, okay, they're up next. Almost like the Houston Texans, like last year. Even though the Texans made the playoffs, had they not, we would have all known, okay, they're up next. They're the team to watch out for. And I feel like that is what the Chicago Bears are going to do by the end of the season. Everybody's going to say, okay, next year, they're the team that we need to watch out for.
The Bears have been a pretty popular pick this offseason because of Caleb. I don't think I'd be shocked if they got into the playoffs though, Trey, as like a wild card. Like if we think the season's gonna go how well we think it is with those weapons, and you didn't even mention they got Gerald Everett, who was a good tight end with the Chargers, and Cole Kmet. I mean, they got weapons. The old line has improved, and the defense, right? Like so, I mean, they really got some things going for them. Pretty favorable schedule as well too. So I can see a world where they even make the playoffs. I'm gonna go with. So I got a couple like options here. I got one player and then I got one team. The team I'm picking, I'm not picking him because he's on my fantasy team. But I think the Washington Commanders trade is gonna make the playoffs.
Ooh,
I'm gonna tell you why.
playoffs?
First, yeah, I'm gonna tell you why. First things first, I'm a little skeptical of the NFC East. I do think there's gonna be a team that's gonna take a step back. And I at first I wanted to pick the Eagles as that team, but I just think they're so talented with Barkley. Even if they stumble out of the blocks, they're gonna still find a way to get 10 wins. I think the Cowboys, this might be the year they take a little step back. Just a little step back. Doesn't mean they might not make the playoffs or anything like that, but I think this is the year. I don't have any belief in the Giants. Here's why I believe in Washington, Trey. New coach theory. Year one, Dan Quinn coach, I'm always down for that. I'm always down for a new coach, new situation. They got a nice mix of veteran players, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler with some of the existing guys, Jonathan Allen that they already had there. Third, I like their rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. He's played a bunch of football. He's super experienced. He's gonna be ready to play right away. This isn't like the old days where you're not really sure. And I'm gonna get to another guy who's gonna play a lot, but I think he's gonna be good. And then the last point, Trey, this is the guy we haven't mentioned a lot. Cliff Kingsbury's with him. Last time we saw Cliff Kingsbury in the NFL, he was still running really pretty good offenses. I know it didn't work out at the end with Kyler Murray with him as a head coach, but as an offensive play caller, he's always been pretty inventive and been able to get the job done with no matter who the quarterback was. So I like that team. Now, am I saying they're going to make a run to Super Bowl? No, but I think this team can get into the playoffs in a wild card spot. Do you like? Am I crazy?
You're not crazy, but listen, if they made the playoffs, that's such a big leap from last year. Now, granted, I do think that Daniels is a very talented quarterback. I hope he learns to slide. I mean, that will save him a lot of
That
injuries
would
in
be
his
the only
career.
thing that would derail it. That I was gonna say that would be the only thing that if he got hurt, in which we talked about, he's a guy that he got popped in college. So
He did. But I mean, listen, they're in the NFC East. The NFC in general is just it's the weaker conference. Like, let's just be honest. So like, yeah, all you they can make it. I don't think it's likely, but it's not impossible. I will say that.
and let me give you my and I don't know if you have another team, but let me give you the player because this kind of piggybacks off of this. I like Bo Nix with the Broncos, Trey. I like Bo Nix with the Broncos. I'm not saying he's gonna be the best quarterback when we look back years from now, but I think he's gonna get off to a good start. Well, hell, we already know how many games he done played in college. I mean, he was in college for forever. He played like he had 60 something starts. No other quarterback has had more starts in college in their career than Bo Nix. He was in college forever. So you got to talk about a guy that's ready to go. I think it's a perfect marriage with what he was doing with Dan Lanning in Oregon to now what he's going to be doing with Sean Payton. Sean Payton likes to run quick read offenses, get the ball out, similar to Drew Brees. That is Bo Nick's strength. He's a guy that's a point guard, can get the ball out quickly. He's not really looking to run. He can run if he has to, but he's really looking to keep his eyes downfield. Now they don't have the greatest weapons or anything like that, so I don't know what their team would look like in terms of like actually making a real run. But in terms of a guy we look back and be like, oh, that guy had like a really good year and was productive, and it's not going to be a train wreck. I think Bo Nix. I don't, but I know you didn't really like going. We were talking about it before the draft. I know you're not a huge Bo Nix guy. And I wouldn't say I am either. But can you see a world where Bo Nix performs really well and like he might be even the best performing rookie quarterback? Like I know that kind of tiptoes on your Caleb Williams thing, but like I don't think that's crazy.
I guess it's not crazy, but my thing is, I mean, what we saw of him in college was he was doing a lot of checkdowns and like short passes. And you know that can work because I mean Kirk Cousins made a career out of it. But
Yeah,
I think that limits you in a lot of places. And Sean Payton, like, this isn't a Bo Nix thing, but Sean Payton really hasn't impressed me these last couple of years. Like, he didn't impress me his instant in New Orleans. Like, the end of it, he really didn't impress me with his offensive schemes there. And then he definitely hasn't impressed me with Denver. Now, I know you
yeah,
could
yeah. They
put a
gonna
lot
leave.
of
They gonna
blame on
leave them
that.
last couple of Sean Payton years out of that documentary for sure.
I-
Well, if he,
You
yeah,
have
they gonna leave
to.
them.
You have to. So, like, I'm not sold on the marriage between him and Sean Payton, but I mean, there's a possibility again with short passes, wide receivers getting that yards after catch, and with the way his game was in college, he's not going to throw a lot of interceptions. If he was able to maintain that, then yeah, he can have the best rookie year. But I think that sentiment has to remain, like you said, 5 or 6 years from now. I don't think we look at him as the best quarterback out of that draft. Maybe he had the best rookie year, but I think that's the end of it.
We gotta see how that one plays out. Who do you got for disappointing teams? Any disappointing teams? Any disappointing players? Anybody you think is
Yes.
gonna take a step back? Because there's a couple options here, but yeah, go ahead.
So when disappointed, I still think like they're not going to be bottom feeder tier. I don't want to state that clearly, but I think they're going to take a step back, and I don't think we're going to really look at them as a Super Bowl contender, and that is the Buffalo Bills. The
Oh
main
yeah,
reason, the only reason I'm saying that is because Stephon Diggs, and you could feel about him how you want, but he still was a number one receiver in the NFL. I know a lot of people like to say he didn't come up clutch, and then him and Josh Allen didn't look like they necessarily had the best chemistry, on or off the field, but they were still able to produce and get them into the playoffs and compete where they got there. And I just don't, I feel like Josh Allen's going to try to do too much. Like we really haven't, we remember Josh Allen when he didn't have a number one receiver. And that's when we were wondering, like, okay, did the Bills make the right pick? Like, is this really going to work? And then he started to improve, but then they got him Stephon, and that's when he hit superstardom. And I kind of wonder if he's going to come back down to earth. Like I feel like he's going to try to scramble too much. He's going to try to make something out of nothing. He's going to make passes that he shouldn't make. Uh, I kind of am curious to see what they're going to do. And then their defense, look, when Leslie Frazier left, a lot of people thought that they were going to improve in defense, but they really didn't last year, in my opinion. So I can see that defense still having some issues, and having a lackluster offense would not help them at all.
It's interesting because I think Josh Allen improved enough to maybe we don't have to worry about some of that stuff like before. But yeah, like you said, the biggest thing with Josh Allen is he just has some of those head scratching plays, man. Like he has some of those head scratching plays that and it's like I think their margin for error would be smaller. Kind of like what you're mentioning. It's just that would be the only thing. So if he's able to rein that in, but I mean, from what we've known of Josh Allen, that's never been reining something in has never been Josh Allen's thing. So I mean, kind of even saying that is kind of crazy to begin with. So man, that's yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Now, also I didn't mention for a surprise as well too, Trey. I'm a little higher on the Titans. I think the Titans are gonna be pretty good this year. Not maybe not a playoff team, but
Ooh, I like that one.
I do like the yeah. I guess I like Will Levis. I don't love him, but I like him. They got weapons that are motivated. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, DeAndre Hopkins. Not a bad defense. New coaching staff. I can see they make some things interesting. The disappointment thing is interesting because I guess it's like the rate of disappointment. There's a couple of teams I think that can take like a real step back or a small step back. The team I'm gonna pick, I'll just say it. Cleveland. Cleveland's gonna finish last in the division. It's just I'm sorry. We got to stop pretending that this defense is just going to carry this thing, and Deshaun Watson and this offense and just get themselves to 8-9 wins. Congratulations to Stefanski. You've done a great job to this point. You got Coach of the Year. You got Miles Garrett. You got an excellent defense. Two things are going to happen here. That defense is not going to be that good for that long again. If you look at their stats, Trey, a lot of their defensive performances were at home when they were excellent, and on the road they weren't that great. Second of all, Deshaun Watson's cooked, Trey. Let's just call it. He's cooked.
Oh
Deshaun's
yeah.
cooked. He's cooked. We could pretend like we're delaying the inevitable with we already know how the story ends with Deshaun Watson. He's gonna get removed. They're gonna try to trade him or he's gonna get cut and they're gonna have to eat that cap hit. They're just basically buying a year to try to get this done. But they're gonna be taking this huge cap hit because Deshaun's cooked. He's not the same player. He's not the same player. They don't have Nick Chubb for the first 4 games at minimum. Offensive line had some injuries already banged up. I'm just not believing in Cleveland. I know when we look at that division in the North, we're like, hey, we got Baltimore and Cincinnati, but you got to worry about Cleveland. You got to worry about Cleveland. No, we don't. I'm so down on Cleveland. I think even the Steelers, with we don't even know who the hell is going to be the quarterback by the end of the year. I think they will even finish ahead of Cleveland. I mean, you got to agree with me there at this point. Maybe you don't agree that they're going to finish last, but they got to take some sort of step back here.
Oh, I fully agree with you. And like you said, maybe I could take the last one, maybe, but I still agree with you. Yeah, I fully agree with you. Like Deshaun is good. It's a physical and mental with him, I believe. Their defense cannot carry them like they did in years past. Nick Chubb, who was their best player until he hurt his leg last year, he's going to be coming off an injury, and then you're still missing your best player in the team. Like I don't see it with Cleveland. I really don't. Like you said, they're buying time until they can get rid of Deshaun, and it's unfortunate that that's the player that's the hallmark for getting a guaranteed or fully guaranteed contract in the NFL. It's unfortunate that he's the quarterback that got it because I don't think they're going to give any more because of him.
Oh yeah, that's definitely not happening after that. Yeah, it's still crazy to get that contract after what he was even dealing with at the time. So I mean, yeah, it's insane. I do have a question though, because I'm just looking at these divisions. It just kind of like popped to my head. I was looking at Mike Sandos. I know we usually talk about the quarterback tier list, which we'll probably talk about on another episode, because he just dropped that. He had Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray in the same tier. There's some explanations for it, and again, how he does his tiers, he's getting like votes from coaches and players and stuff. Who would you rather have? I think that's like a real question. Trevor Lawrence or Kyler Murray? Because both
Kyler,
guys with some injury issues. Both guys got different strengths and weaknesses. Oh, it's very clear for you.
is that clear? You go ahead and finish, but I'm letting you know how clear it is.
No, no, go ahead. Because I think it's closer than what it is. But go ahead.
I just think with his ability to run and like just we could say we want about running quarterbacks and having a strong arm. Like that's how we prefer, and we prefer a taller quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, 6'5", that can stand in the pocket. But the idea of a dual threat quarterback like that just changes schematically what you can do in defense and what you have to prepare for as a defense. And I think that Kyler Murray does present that. Like he's super fast, and then he still has a nice arm. No, he probably cannot make all the arm angle throws that Trevor Lawrence can make, but his decision making might be better than Trevor Lawrence, and that's a decision making based on somebody who there's reports on doesn't really even really practice the hardest, doesn't really look at a playbook like he should. So you can only imagine if he starts to do the things, how much more he can improve. With Trevor Lawrence, I like him, but like I said to you, I've never really quite seen it in the NFL. Like his decision making is kind of he
Yeah, you've
fumbles a
been.
lot.
I'll give you credit. You've been consistent on the Trevor Lawrence thing for like a couple years. Like you've kind of always been like one fit in, one fit out with Trevor Lawrence. Yeah.
Yeah, like I see the potential. Like I see why people like him, but I've never seen it actually like play out great. Like even that playoff game, that one playoff game he was in, played terrible the first half, and then played great the second half, and they ended up beating the Chargers.
Yep.
I've never really seen him being able to string together like a 2 or 3 game performance. And I don't really think that's asking a lot where he was just great or really good for those 2 or 3 games. So like I don't see it.
It's tough. I mean, by the way, I think you even undersold Kyler Murray's arm a little bit. He's got that baseball arm. He's got a whip. So I mean, like he, I think it's because he's smaller. It looks different, but like he throws a beautiful football. I think the thing with Trevor Lawrence is he kind of had a rough year last year. Like I have to give him a couple breaks. He had a rough year last year with the injuries. His first year, we can't even count that as real football with the Urban Meyer situation. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I feel like some parts of his development, it's almost going to be like the Bryce Young thing. Trey, Bryce Young's a rookie. This is how I'm grading him on this curve this year. Like, I'm so serious. He is a rookie. Like, we cannot act like that dumpster fire of a situation that started the year in a situation. Head coach is having anarchy between him and the other assistants, gets fired, and then it ends the year like because the Carolina Panthers season doesn't even can't get any worse. Their owners getting pissed off and doing stuff to Jacksonville fans. Like we just can't. Like this guy's a rookie, so that's kind of how I feel like with Trevor Lawrence. Murray's second year off for coming back from that injury, so you always like that second year too. So I just think it's like closer than what it is. I probably Man, it's tough. I would probably go Kyler Murray, like with you, but I'm closer with it than you are. Like it is like really close because you can. There's some days you watch Trevor Lawrence and you like, hey man, there's not 5 or 6 guys really better than that guy. Like you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know if there's situations where I've watched Kyler that I've ever really thought that. If that makes sense. You know, as much of a dual threat as he is, I don't know if I've ever really like been like that's the case. So
And I like that you mentioned that, and that's really true. But my only thing with him is just like it's just not it's the consistency. Like there's been games where I'm like, man, Trevor Lawrence, like you're a top 5, maybe even top 3 quarterback in the league. But I just need to see the consistency because we saw games when Josh Allen, even when he was younger, we saw the potential in spots here and there, but it wasn't until he started getting consistent where we were like, okay, now I see why the Bills invested so much into you. Now I see the payoff. And that's kind of what I want to see with Trevor Lawrence. Now, he does have the tools. Like I said that to begin with. He does have the tools. So like I hope he is successful and I know he can be, but I just haven't seen the consistency enough in his NFL, like you said, like the last couple of years where I'm just kind of been off on him. Like 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
I can see that. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like when I was looking at those tiers, it's kind of like you're comparing a lot of these guys, and you can kind of really go either way with these. But that's kind of how some of the GMs even think too. But yeah, let's get to the nitty gritty here. We'll get to the Super Bowl predictions in a second, but let's go with the MVP picks. I mean, it's always hard to predict this, but I mean, we do it in basketball, we gotta do it in football. We gotta at least put our name out for somebody. Like, who do you got for the MVP?
I
Tough to
think
predict.
it is tough to predict. Super, super tough. I saw, okay, I'm gonna give you my first. The first one is the wild card.
Okay, wild card
And
one. Yeah, I like that.
okay, I knocked them in the beginning of this podcast. So, I'm kind of going to eat some of my words that I said earlier, but I'm going to give it to Josh Allen because I just think if somehow he can put this team on his back and propel them into the playoffs. Not the wild card, but yeah, the wild card. Let's just say even the wild card. Like, but if he could propel them into the playoffs, I think he's going to put up massive numbers in doing so. And I think that he's going to have so much admiration, not just from his fellow teammates, but from the pundits alike, the writers, that I think he's going to get that push to be the MVP. Now,
Okay.
realistically,
Yeah, I mean, I can see a world where yeah, if that's the case, because they have been trying to crown him for a while. So yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
but hold on, does that sound crazy to you? Like, do you really believe it?
I don't, because of how talented Josh Allen is, I don't think it can ever sound crazy if somebody says he wants an MVP. You know what I mean? Like, I got to put it that way. Like, it's never going to sound crazy. Like, oh, Josh Allen won an MVP. It's like, yeah, I mean, he's really, really good. It To me, the only surprising part would be, if there is anything surprising, is that he put together a full season's worth of like great Josh Allen stuff with like very minimal mistakes. And that's just the thing that we've never really seen him do. Like, so you know what I mean? Like, but again, Brett Favre won MVPs too. So I mean,
No,
it
that is
can
true.
happen. So because
Different league though.
yeah, yeah. So different leagues. So it's never gonna be truly, truly surprising. But yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, and then the reason I had to divert a little and do that wild card pick is because I just think the simple one is Patrick Mahomes. I think a lot of people are going to try to atone from last year, and I think that in doing so, they think that Patrick Mahomes maybe should have been an MVP candidate. I know you had it was like it seemed like it was between Brock and Lamar, but Patrick was in that third seat, like he was at third wheel. But I think a lot of people like after that Super Bowl run and the incredible run that they had, I just think that they're going to try to say, you know what, he's the best player in the league. He's been the best player in the league for the last 4 or 5 years. It's kind of like that Michael Jordan theory. We just can't give it to you every single year. But you know what? It looks like y'all are really on track to win your third Super Bowl, like a three-peat, something that you do not see in the NFL with the kind of parity that you have in the NFL. And I just think that they're going to give it to him. And not to say that he's not deserving.
I mean, you're not gonna get an argument out of me with the Mahomes thing. I mean, you're not. You know what I mean? Mahomes, and by the way, he had a down year last year too. I mean, really, what did he only throw, like 26 touchdowns with all the issues with the receivers and stuff? So this would be a year where he's like really, coming back and putting it together. So this is interesting because like I feel like I can go a couple different ways with the surprise pick. Um, I'm gonna go with this. Might even be that surprising. Actually, no, that's a lie. It will be. I think Dak Prescott can win an MVP, and
Hmm.
here's why: the Cowboys win 10, 11 games every year. He's always productive. Last year, if you look at his numbers, he had better numbers than Herbert and Mahomes and a lot of the guys that we both like. He's going to put up numbers. And if they win enough games, they win the division. And if it's an MVP race where it's kind of wide open, they are America's team, and they are going to push that narrative. And what didn't he finish like in the top four? I think last year, I believe. So
I
it's like,
believe he did, yes.
yeah. So top three or top four. So it's not like he's even like that far away from it. So even for me saying that that's like he's that far is like kind of crazy. Like so, I kind of almost like want to like make him my main pick because I can really really see a world, but like I want to make it interesting. I thought about C.J. Stroud. I just don't know. I feel like sometimes there could be a sophomore slump. I feel like everybody's drinking the Kool Aid. I like Joe Burrow. I got to see him throw a football for a week straight before I can even figure out if the guy is that good. I'm just being real. Like I don't think that's that much to ask.
I'm so happy you said that.
Because I mean, we really acting like this is just normal. That he got to have a third day off, like he a pitcher in baseball. And I know it's like it's a weird injury that he has. Because like really, I don't think any football players have had that as far as throwing. So it's a unique situation. That's just something that caused me to pause. Of course, you drafted Jamar Chase in fantasy. I kind of was staying away from Jamar because I didn't even know if he was going to hold out or not. You know what I mean? So like that whole situation, T Higgins is there, but is he really there? He was unhappy. He was trying to request a trade. So you got a lot of things kind of working against you there. But I'm gonna go with a guy that we've talked about that we think is really good, and I think the team is gonna be really good. I'm gonna go Justin Herbert. I think everybody thinks Justin Herbert's a top five elite guy. I think there has to be at some point a year where he puts it together, and this is the best situation for it. Now he doesn't have the weapons he normally had. No Mike Williams, no Keenan Allen. But I think he'll look even better because I think Lad McConkey is going to be one of the better rookies, Trey. Like ready to play right away. Maybe you get something out of Quentin Johnson, the rookie that everyone thinks is a bust. He's with Harbaugh that always produces great offenses. Now, they are going to run the ball a lot, so that is going to be something that can maybe pull away from his numbers. But if they win enough games, and let me put the cherry on top, Trey. If they win that division, which is a real possibility even over the Chiefs, because we've seen the Chiefs struggle in the regular season. How does he not win the MVP if they dethrone that team from winning the division? You know what I mean? Like that is my thing. If they can do that, and Harbaugh wins everywhere he goes, and if Herbert stays healthy, because look, he's already like nursing an injury, like you were saying against your rule, he already got a question mark by his name. So I can see Justin Herbert winning the MVP. I think that's gonna be my pick. I'm gonna go Herbert.
That's not crazy, but I mean, like you said, he just lost some of his weapons this year, and they have a new coach. So like, there's some major changes on that team. So like, I just don't know as a team if they perform well enough. I can see him personally taking a leap next year or this upcoming season, but I don't know as a team record wise if it's going to be good enough. Like, if they get into the wild card, is it going to be the same argument I made with Josh Allen that even though they're a wild card team, just what he did to get them to that spot, would that be enough? Because I don't know if they would dethrone the
Yeah, I
champions
mean,
in the league, but like, would that be enough?
I don't know. I mean, I just think that I put it this way. I'm more banking on Harbaugh. I don't know a situation where Harbaugh is not going to come in here and win 10 games.
Right
And I
away?
think,
Like,
yeah,
next year, but right away?
he's done it everywhere he's gone. I mean, I shouldn't say everywhere he's gone. He hasn't done it in the very first year, but some of the years he has. So, and Harbaugh's already he's been in the NFL. And I think Bill Simmons talks about this a lot, or maybe Bill Simmons. I may be confusing him with someone else. I like the college coaches that come into the NFL. They have an advantage with the draft in those first couple of years because they were just recruiting a lot of these guys. So I think he's got to get it while the iron's hot. And I know people might be like, well, in a couple years, Mahomes is older and Kelsey might be gone, this and that, but you just really never know what's going to happen. You don't know if guys get hurt. You don't know if things are going to, like, what's going to change. But they've got a roster with Khalil Mack and Bosa. Those guys are not getting any younger. Derwin James, they have a really expensive team if you think of all these guys that they have paid. I think they can maximize on this and get to the playoffs. And if they do, that would lead me to believe if they were winning 10, 11 games, that Herbert has to be a guy that was throwing for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. And if you do that, you're in the MVP, race. And I just don't know if this is a year that it's going to be like one clear cut guy, unless Mahomes just kind of like goes absolutely nuclear. I just don't see a situation where that changes. So I'm gonna go with Herbert. I'm out on a limb. We might look back and Dak may have been the safer bet of the two because he's actually already been in the top five in MVP voting. So we'll see how it goes there. But let's get to the final thing here, Trey. Super Bowl predictions. This one's always hard. I feel like it's even harder in football than it is basketball because basketball we know who the best players are and you can kind of just decide between a couple teams. But we got to throw something out here because we are doing an NFL preview show. Who you got?
I'm gonna sound so boring when I said this, and I'm so sorry because
Oh
it
my
sounded
gosh.
boring when I gave you the MVP pick. But it's who I truly believes are gonna be there. I think we're gonna get a repeat. I think it's gonna be Chiefs and 49ers.
You think the 49ers are getting back? I mean, that's more
Yeah.
surprising than the Chiefs. Okay.
Who's beating them in the NFC?
Are they staying healthy for a full year with all those guys? That's my only question. I'm not
I
trying to
think
put
they'll
that
be
on them.
healthy enough. I think it'll be like last year where Debo might be hurt or banged up here or there. Maybe Christian McCaffrey has like a little ankle injury where he's out for 3 or 4 weeks in the middle of the season. But once it gets to the playoffs, I believe they'll be healthy enough.
I mean, when I look at the NFC, it's tough. But yeah, I'll let you go. So you got the Chiefs and
No, no,
49ers.
no, no. That's my question for you. Like, who's beating them?
Well, it was going to be my prediction. So I mean, the team I got that can beat them. But go ahead.
Well, you know what? Go give your prediction, and then we can rehash this conversation.
Okay. So when I was looking at the NFC today, it's slim pickings, like we talk about. I mean, it's not very many options. I was like, I can get cute and like maybe can Green Bay can make a run. Detroit, I think, is a team that can probably get there. I can see situations like that happening. The Eagles, I was close. The Eagles, I was really, really close because I'm sitting here thinking, with that talent, how do they not get back? But I'm gonna go with the
Coaching.
Rams. I'm gonna go with the Rams in NFC. I like
Mm.
Stafford. I like McVay. I like that situation that they've got going on with Puka Nacua and Cooper Cup. I think Cooper Cup's coming back for vengeance, by the way, too. Remember, I said that. I think a lot of people are kind of underestimating him. Puka kind of came out. Cooper Cup had some injuries. The only thing I'm questioning is the defense going to be good enough when they lost Aaron Donald. That's the only thing I'm questioning. And what I'm banking on is the Rams getting into the playoffs, which I'm pretty sure you have them in the playoffs too. But what I'm banking on is they have enough experience. They can go win a road game and beat San Francisco in the playoffs. They can go beat a Philly. I'm banking on that type of situation in the NFC. So like that's my whole thing. I mean, before I even get to the AFC pick, am I just way off?
No, you're
'Cause
not
I
way off.
might be.
I wouldn't say that, but my issue with the Rams is so much depends on one player, and it's not even Matthew Stafford. It's Cooper Cup because to me he opens up the offense. And
Yeah.
like I know Puka was able to have a lot of success without Cooper Cup, but in my opinion, he played his best games when Cooper Cup was on the field just because of how much he opens up. And Cooper Cup's been kind of injury prone. And, I think he's like, what is he? I think, yeah, he's in his 30s now. Like, you know how I am with injured players. Like, I'm just always a little bit cautious. I'm the one that's always going to be a little bit like pessimistic when it comes to that, especially if that's your best player. And I know you can make an argument that Matthew Stafford is, but I don't think he opens up the offense like Cooper Cup does. So, like, that kind of gives him a little bit of pause. Like so much leans on one person, whereas where San Francisco is like, okay, you have Brandon Ayuk, but then you also have McCaffrey, and then you also have Debo, and then you can't forget about George Kittle. Like they just have a little bit more you can lean on, so there's a little bit more certainty.
It to me, I feel like there's got to be something about like that war of attrition of constantly getting this deep in the playoffs and not getting the job done. Like at some point, the Bills gonna be due. Like that's just my only thing with that. It's not even like nothing really against that team. They're really talented, and we know this is gonna be the last year of this rendition because they got to pay guys.
Oh
I
yeah.
just I'm like, how many years can you keep getting close and not getting there? That's really my only thing with the 49ers. But I got the Rams. I could very well look really wrong about that, but I mean, I can see a world that they go on a run. In the AFC, there's a lot of options, and I'm not doing this because of the homer pick, but it's going to be the Dolphins, Trey. It's going to be the Dolphins.
You're not
I'm
a
gonna tell,
homer.
I actually never picked them in the predictions, but I'm going to tell you why. Nobody's talking about the Dolphins because the last time we saw the Dolphins play football, it was they were freezing their behinds off and they got killed. So everyone's kind of like, oh, the Dolphins can't do it. I mean, they can't win on the road, this and that, and they don't beat good teams. That's the narrative. No one's talking about it. Everybody's talking about the Jets and all these other teams and the Bengals and the Ravens. Not only the Dolphins going to get the Super Bowl, the reason they're going to get the Super Bowl, they're going to get the number one seed in the AFC. They're going to be the best team in the AFC record wise. They're going to get their home playoff games. And then we don't even have to worry about this. We're going to get our home playoff games and we're going to handle business and then we're going to get to the Super Bowl. Now, I don't know what's going to happen if they get the Super Bowl, if they even go win the Super Bowl. But I think this is the year that they take that step. I'm down with Slim Tua, Ozempic Tua. He's back. He's looking thin. He's better than ever. He's going to be moving around a little bit. This is going to be really like the last. I hope I'm wrong on this, but like this is probably going to be the last like ultra great Tyreek Hill year. Like ultra great. You know what I mean? Like he could probably still be like regular great next year. But you know what I mean? Like this is probably the
Yeah.
last like one you can get out of that. And then with Waddle, if they get anything out of Odell Beckham Jr., it really is for a year. Like they just don't have a long runway with this, like with this current rendition. Jalen Ramsey, Trey, by the way, too. I don't know if you know the Dolphins are the oldest team in the NFL, like age wise, which is kind of crazy. But then when you start looking at back, like Calais Campbell, Jalen Ramsey. I mean, how they're not going to have all these like this is. We're speaking of last year. This may be the last year or two of Jalen Ramsey being like a number one corner in the league, right? Like so I think that this team knows that, and I think they got to strike while the iron's hot because they're gonna have to make some changes in a couple years anyway, especially since they paid Tua and that money's gonna like come due. So I'm gonna go with the Dolphins to actually get the number one seed, and I think they're motivated by that. And they're deep. There's not many teams deeper than the Dolphins, especially offensively. I mean, we got three running backs, we got three or four good receivers. Obviously, the quarterback's pretty good, even if you don't think he's elite. Offensive line's actually better than it's been in the past. So I'm going with the Dolphins. But you could tell me why that's crazy. You could tell me why that's crazy. The Dolphins get there. I know it sounds crazy, but you tell me why.
So I wouldn't say it's crazy, but with the Dolphins again, it seems like every year, like they kind of struggle with the cold weather. So like they can't be a wild card team again and be facing
Well, I mean,
Buffalo.
first of all, that was historic cold though. Like that,
It
I feel
was,
like
it
that's a
was.
little
You're right.
unfair.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, yeah.
I had to give because you re-jog my memory. That was like historic cold. So like you're
Yeah,
right.
I was like,
That's
people be acting like it's 50 degrees, they can't play. I'm like, all right, bro. It was like negative. It was like -2 out there.
you're right. I did forget about that piece. I will admit that. So thank you. So I
Mhm.
guess you do have that going for you. The other thing is like I gotta put my hope in Tua. Like no disrespect, but like of all the teams we named, San Francisco, the Chiefs, the Rams, Tua's the worst quarterback we've named so far out of those teams.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! You like Purdy over Tua?
I do. Not it's like it's by a
Whoa.
hair, but I like Purdy over. Purdy takes more risk, and like he just
Yeah.
it comes at a cost. Like you will have a three interception game, but it also you need some of those risks in order to win these playoff games. And Tua's can be kind of conservative, and like maybe it's because he doesn't have the strongest arm. I know you and I kind of debate on that, so like I'm not going to rehash that topic, but like he plays really risk averse, and I feel like that kind of stunts that offense at times.
To me, the problem with the Tua situation is he gets judged by that, but it's also like how they run the offense, if I'm being fair. So it's like they kind of run the offense where it's just a quick decision to get the ball out. So it's like he probably could be doing more, but like they're just using his best asset and like just doubling and tripling down on that. So like that's why I feel like when he has to make a deep throw, he makes the deep throw, but we're not asking him to do it all game. By the way, we're not asking any quarterback to throw deep all game too. So like
No,
I just feel like some of that stuff is unfair. Now, the thing that I did feel about Tua is fair. He's not going to give you much creation offensively, like we talk about the Kyler and those guys. When the play breaks down, it's not going to look great. Like that's just completely fair. But like you give that guy a clean pocket, he's going to look like I know Jared Goff is bigger than him, but he can execute an offense just like that guy. You know what I mean? And that can win you games. And if he's not in historically cold weather or even cold weather, we have the humidity and the heat and stuff to our advantage down here too, which is traditionally why we usually start off really well early in the season because if teams got to come down here from a city up north, they're not really used to this. So I think they can take that to their advantage as well. But I got our picks written down. So we got Chiefs and 49ers. You got Chiefs and 49ers. I got Ravens and Dolphins. So we're etched in stone on that as well. So I can't wait for the regular season anyway. So that's like, regardless, we're just happy the season's actually back. But I want to thank everybody so much for joining us once again. We're getting to our time here. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. So check us out on all the platforms. We're dropping weekly. Interact with us with the content as well, like Trey always says. But on the way out, of course, I will swing it to Trey.
again, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Like Nolan said, we're on all the major platforms, so please check us out. We really do appreciate it, and interact with us on social media. We do really do check it out, and we do take you guys' feedback. But again, until next week, peace.